We have a new shocking report on Kevin Durant as it says he wants to come play in Houston. It's now up to the Rockets on whether they want to give up one of their young, talented prospects for what Ime Udoka describes as a win now period in Houston. Welcome in here to Rockets Digest. I'm Jace Andrews, and I appreciate taking the time out of your day to join us. If you're new, hit that subscribe button. We're growing fast, and I want you to be a part of the first 100 subscribers here on what will become the biggest Rockets community on YouTube. Let's go right into the report here and start off with the quote. Talking about it, Sports Illustrated's Chris Mannix saying Durant has 1 year left on his contract, and even approaching 37, he still has incredibly high value. I think, and it's just my opinion, that Durant wants to wind up in Houston. So let's first start with that. There's been a lot of talk about Kevin Durant going to Houston, obviously not staying in Phoenix. They're firing their coach potentially to appease Durant. They want to try and keep their pieces in Phoenix. They're on a little bit of a win streak now, trying to kind of get that back end playoff spot. But the notion from Kevin Durant is that he does not want to be in Phoenix next year. That has been made pretty clear since the trade deadline. And now we sit here just a couple of months away from summer and, trades happening, and the Rockets kind of put themselves into an interesting position, especially with last night's game against the Denver Nuggets, which we'll talk about here in a moment. But kind of talking about Durant still, he fits with what Houston wants. And Coach Ime Udoka has said this a couple times now. This is a win-now opportunity for the Houston Rockets. That is what he wants to happen over the next, 3, 4, 5 years. Durant would ensure that for at least next season. The thing is, what is the value you're having to give up for him? Let's continue on, though, with the report on Kevin Durant. We have another quote saying, I think the Rockets wanted Durant before the trade deadline. If the Rockets wanted him, it would have happened. Durant has a lot of respect for Ime Udoka, and in Houston, he could be a missing piece to a title contender. I'd keep an eye on that after the season, end quote. That again from Sports Illustrated's Chris Mannix. I think he has a good point there. Right now, the Rockets, especially with the way the game went last night, obviously not having to face Nikola Jokic, you're on a 9-game win streak, and you lose, you almost seem like there is a need for that veteran presence, that top-tier superstar to almost push you over the edge. And the Rockets have said multiple times they believe that person is on their roster. And as much as I want to believe that as well, I start to kind of sit here and wonder, with this loss, how much of what the Rockets are sharing are to keep the players they have right now at bay, not to worry about them with trades, not to worry about them with what could happen in the future, and saying we have our guys on the squad. We have the people that we know we want with us. To as saying, oh yeah, we need somebody else. Like that doesn't vote your confidence in your team. So the Rockets are doing exactly what I expect them to do. They're voting their confidence in the team they have right now. The thing that I present to you, though, and we'll go back to the score here, the Denver Nuggets did not have Nikola Jokic last night. The Houston Rockets were probably about as close to as fully healthy as they've been almost all season. Fred VanVleet was there. Amen Thompson played a majority of the minutes. There was Jalen Green having 30 points. Everybody played to a relatively high degree last night, and yet it just wasn't enough. And so do the Rockets start to think, okay, this wasn't enough that night. Obviously, there's still time for basketball, but down the line, you're facing Jokic in a 7-game series. You're facing Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and the Oklahoma City down the line. When is it to, we need to make a move. We know this is a win-now window. We know we have the players. We just have to get that one little bump, that one little push to get us into a title contender area, which is exactly what they said here in the report. Go back to it here. It's a missing piece to a title contender. It's a known thing around the NBA right now that Houston is knocking on the door. But I don't think the respect is being given because there is not that star player. There is no Kevin Durant. There is no Nikola Jokic. There is no Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. There is no Luka Doncic, LeBron James, name it. And as Rockets fans, we sit here and say, well, that's okay. We don't need them. We have Jalen Green and Alperen Şengün. And I agree. I think these guys are insanely talented. And I think if you wait a couple years, they will be that type of star. They will be that Kevin Durant, that LeBron James, that Nikola Jokic, even Shai Gilgeous. I mean, they are really playing at a high level right now. But Ime Udoka has talked about it. He describes this as a win-now window. I can't lie. A win-now window and trading for a guy who is putting up these stats at 37 years old in a position that I'm not going to say you need, but would definitely be a helpful drive to the force. I can't deny that he would make Houston, in my opinion, if he's on the team next season, and again, it does require, what's the trade details? If he is on the team next season, the Houston Rockets are the favorite to win the Western Conference, and in my mind, the Houston Rockets are the favorite to win the NBA Finals. 42 points last night against Cleveland, who, for all intents and purposes, have been the top team in the East. Obviously, we know what Boston is capable of, and they were on a 16-game win streak not too long ago. Kevin Durant could change the outlook of the Houston Rockets for this upcoming season. And to make the trade worth it, I do think you would have to extend him for at least an extra year, because as Ime Udoka said, a win-now window is great, but your win-now window should not be 1 year. If you're trading let's just go hypotheticals here, because I've heard his name, and I really don't want this, but let's say it's Jalen Green. I don't want that. I'm not saying that's the place, but that has been the name that's been floating around as a key piece that teams are going to ask for. I don't know if that's worth it at that point, because then you're giving up Jalen Green for a potential Kevin Durant for a couple of years. The potential of him for a couple of years. The guarantee is his contract being there for the next year. So you would have next season with potentially Fred VanVleet. I think the Rockets are going to cut him, let him go, and you'll have Alperen Şengün, no Jalen Green, probably Jabari Smith at that point. You're going to have, from that point, Dylan Brooks still there, and Kevin Durant. And while that team does seem like the team to beat, you lose out on Jalen Green. And that's where, how much do stats matter? Because Kevin Durant, his stats are huge. Everything on the board screams superstar, screams guy that will come in here and change the Rockets to be a title contender if they are not already. But it's that age and it's that contract that continues to pose questions in the Houston Rockets organization. And that's exactly why I think we had that article come out and say they are not looking to some other team for their superstar. They are looking inside with their own players, with Jalen Green and Alperen Şengün. And I don't blame them. I don't, because Jalen Green has the potential to be a superstar. This key word there is potential. Alperen Şengün has the potential to be a superstar. The key word, though, potential. And with Ime Udoka and the Houston Rockets organization coming in here and saying, we are in a win-now window, we have gotten to the point where we want to compete year in and year out for the Western Conference, and for that matter, the NBA Finals. What move are you going to make? And I'll leave you with this. I think the Rockets getting Kevin Durant would be the biggest move of the summer, and I think if all things line up, it will happen. I don't think Jalen Green will be a part of it, though. But the Rockets have all the power in this. It's shown that KD wants to come to Houston. It's shown that Houston is pretty fine with what they have. So you're putting the Suns in a very interesting situation. If they can go look for other trades, they can. But the Rockets have the picks, the players, the personnel, the things that can get the trade done and be positive for both sides. In my mind, here's what I'm doing this summer. Say the Rockets go on, they lose in, let's say, a series before the conference finals. Let's say they don't make it to the conference finals this year. And they lose to just that team, Nikola Jokic and the Denver Nuggets. In that situation, I'm calling the Suns and saying, hey, Jabari Smith, our 3 first-round picks that we already talked about, the 2 that they have from Phoenix and their 1 in 2030, for KD, straight up. I think they take that trade. And then second of all, the Rockets then extend Kevin Durant for an extra 1 to 2 seasons right when they get him. They get him, and that extension is in the trade talks as well. I think that has to be a very key mindset for them, is if Kevin Durant does not want to sign an extension in Houston, or for that matter, sign an extension for more than, maybe a year, I don't know if, again, that changes the archetype of this trade, because you're trading away Jabari Smith again. I don't think he's going to be a Houston Rocket within the next 2 years. His contract is going to be too steep for the Rockets to pay. You're trading away him for a year of Kevin Durant. And that win now window is great for that year, but then in some ways when he leaves, you feel like you reset a little bit, which just doesn't make sense. So the trade for the Rockets has to be their way or the highway. Because if it's not their way, I agree with what they've been putting out there. They have been saying, we have our guy. It's Alperen Şengün. It's Jalen Green. It's Jabari Smith. It's the team we have right now. It's Amen Thompson. Deal. Keep that team if the trade is not perfect. However, I think you can make that perfect trade, and I think the Suns will be more than willing to give Kevin Durant off to you, given his unhappiness, given the way that they're trying to kind of propel their organization into, I'm not going to say a bridge period, but that's what effectively it will be. So for the Suns, listen to me, make the trade and give us Kevin Durant and welcome in the 2026 NBA Finals champions, the Houston Rockets. That's all I got to say. I appreciate your time, and if you made it to the end of the video, well, you're obviously enjoying the content, so go down there and hit that subscribe button. I would certainly appreciate it. But for now, we will see you next time here on Rockets Digest.